Every country has its own mafia, with the most famous being the Italian, Russian, and then the Japanese mafia. However, today we want to talk about a mafia that you may not have heard of, the Chinese mafia. The mafia in China is not a single group like in other countries. There are over 100 mafia groups in China, each controlling a specific region. But their criminal methods follow a model, which can be called the Chinese mafia style. Chinese mafia groups, like in Italy, have their origins in families. The most important thing to become a member of these mafias is loyalty. Any Chinese individual who wants to join these mafias must go through a series of stages that take years to complete. They will employ you, but not for important or illegal tasks. They give you minor jobs, so that if you were a spy, you couldn't expose the entire family. They call these individuals who are not full members but work for the mafia Blue Lanterns. After years pass and no weaknesses are found in the person and their loyalty is proven, they are accepted as a soldier of the group. The other members discuss them without the person even knowing. They share all their opinions about that person, and then the leaders of the group conduct a vote about them. It's interesting to know that in the mafia, the boss is an absolute dictator. If all the members say yes, but the boss says no, the boss's decision is followed, or vice versa. If everyone says no, but the boss says yes, the boss's word is final. Of course, the members are influenced by the boss, and most of the time their votes are coordinated. When it is decided that someone will become a member of the Chinese mafia, they must swear an oath to abide by 36 rules. We don't have time to explain all of them, but the first rule is that if I am not loyal to the family, I will die with 6 thunderbolts. Their meaning of thunder and lightning refers to being killed with a sword. If high-ranking mafia members have the slightest slip-up, meaning a slight lack of loyalty, their finger gets cut off as a reminder that they must be 100% loyal. However, if someone who has a slight lack of loyalty is in lower ranks, for example, a soldier, they will definitely be killed. They no longer cut off fingers. Now, what is the name of the main boss? The Dragonhead. You know that dragons are very important in Chinese culture, and the name Dragonhead means being at a very high position. So, what do you think you should do to become a member of the Chinese mafia? The Chinese government doesn't joke around with criminals. When they say don't leave your house for the coronavirus, not even a bard is found on the streets, meaning no one dares to commit even the slightest offense. So, how does the mafia work? The main income of the Chinese mafia is not drug trafficking or weapons. Their main income comes from human trafficking. What does that mean? How do they operate? You should know that China has a population of nearly 1.5 billion, and it is a communist country, which means it is not easy to leave China. And it is very difficult for Chinese people to leave their country. Chinese people, you should know, are hard-working individuals who want to work and have money, but this goal becomes more difficult in China itself, especially for manual labor jobs. That's why some Chinese people want to give up everything they have, including themselves, and leave China, especially to reach the United States. The Chinese language and culture are different from ours. That's why the United States has 2 names in China. One is Jishan, which means the Gold Mountain, and the other is Miguo, which means the beautiful country. In any case, the Chinese mafia's only job is to fulfill these people's dreams, but not for their own dreams, but for the money they receive. Leaving a country with strict borders like China is a problem. That's why the mafia charges $40,000 per person and places them in shipping containers, which are then sent out of China. These containers are destined for America. You might say that the people inside these containers suffocate. But these containers are specifically designed, and they have access to air and food. But don't think that everyone has a room and a bathroom and is comfortable. They squeeze about 20 people into a 40-foot container where they have to eat, sleep, and use the bathroom. Once these 20 people are inside the container, it goes onto a ship, similar to container ships, and these containers are placed in the middle to reach America. We said that Chinese mafias are different groups with different rates. Each person costs $40,000, which is a lot of money in China. So how do they pay this money? It's not cash given to the mafia, and they don't even give them a penny. It's a deal made with the mafia. Someone who wants to go to America and doesn't have money makes a deal with the mafia. The mafia says, "I'll take you to America, but you have to work there and pay me first." Now, if they don't pay the money, what happens? These types of loans are only given to people who have families in China. That family becomes their hostage, and if the person doesn't work and doesn't pay the $40,000, their family in China is at risk. Interestingly, some Chinese parents tell their sons, "Go with them to America, let them hold us hostage, and work there to pay them off." Usually, the hostages are the parents. The majority of the Chinese mafia's income comes from human trafficking, but they also have another source of income: the Golden Triangle. The area between Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar is called the Golden Triangle. You might think that the most heroin in the world is produced in Afghanistan, but that's incorrect. The most heroin in the world is produced in this very triangle. A significant amount of this triangle is located in Myanmar. That's why Myanmar is known as the largest producer of heroin in the world. Most of the heroin from this triangle is converted into heroin and goes into containers. The containers play a role in the transportation of these by Chinese mafias back and forth. Most of the heroin from this region is sent to Europe. Well, the story we described is the story of the big Chinese mafias. However, we mentioned that there are more than 100 mafias. Not all of them are big. The smaller ones mainly engage in extortion. For example, they go to fish sellers in a region of China and demand a monthly payment so that the sellers can continue their fish business. If they don't pay the money at an opportune time, the mafia will come and disrupt their operations. Another thing these mafias do is run underground casinos. Opening casinos in China is illegal, except in the autonomous region of Macau, which used to be under Portuguese control but is now under China's jurisdiction. But it is autonomous and the only place near China where casinos exist. That's why these mafias set up underground casinos in China. Many people think that the first mafia group formed in Naples, Italy, in the 19th century. However, it has now become apparent that the world's oldest mafia was formed in China, specifically in the Fujian province. In the 18th century, Fujian was a region of chaos, lawlessness, and insecurity, somewhat like the Wild West, where you had to fight when you went outside. Only those who had power or a weapon and knew how to use it survived. At the same time, the people of Fujian were tired of this situation and decided to form groups to defend themselves. One of these groups became extremely powerful and started exerting control over others, becoming the ruler of Fujian in a way. People didn't dislike this group because they had established security. Although they used force and demanded rights in everything, they had ensured the security of Fujian. Historians say this is the world's first mafia. You should know that the British had planned to paralyze China by spreading opium in the country. But what was their plan? They used Chinese mafia groups and said, "We will give you money to distribute opium throughout China." Their plan was successful. Most Chinese became addicted to opium, and these mafias became wealthier and more powerful. The British also achieved their goals. As time passes, and despite the Chinese government's efforts to eradicate them, the Chinese mafias persist. Even if one illegal route is shut down, they find other illicit ways to continue their operations. In the 20th century, China faced immense pressure with a large population and inadequate resources. Famines occurred periodically, resulting in the deaths of millions of people. During this time, many Chinese attempted to leave the country, particularly to San Francisco, California. It became a new business opportunity for these mafias, who helped Chinese immigrants reach San Francisco. Interestingly, most of the valuable land in San Francisco is now owned by Chinese individuals, many of whom acquired it after the 1906 earthquake. At that time, when San Francisco was devastated by the earthquake and fire, Americans believed the city had no future, and the land became almost free. The Chinese, despite not having much money at the time, were able to purchase these free lands. Within just 20 years, the value of San Francisco's land skyrocketed. Let's go back to China. The situation in China continued until 1949, when Mao Zedong became the leader of the Communist Party of China. This was the first communist government in China. Anyone who opposed communism was labeled a counter-revolutionary and faced two punishments: execution or forced labor camps. During this time, Mao also described the activities of the mafias as counter-revolutionary and cracked down on them severely. Many of them emigrated to the United States. However, this did not mean that the Chinese mafia was completely dissolved. Many continued their operations, but mostly in secret and underground. It is estimated that around 25,000 members of the Chinese mafia live in various parts of America, with San Francisco's Chinatown being their power center. Chinatown is a Chinese neighborhood in San Francisco where the mafia is managed. They do not conduct any activities in America themselves, but oversee operations in other countries. They also act as representatives of the Chinese mafia. These representatives are entrusted with money and tasks to be carried out in America. The Chinese mafia has another characteristic. Despite being one of the most populous mafia groups in the world, their news rarely leaks to the outside. While we cannot confirm its authenticity, Vice News Agency claims that the Communist government of China not only fights against these mafias, but also indirectly uses them as tools. They provide them with money to identify anti-communist individuals within China. In any case, the Chinese mafia has existed for about 200 years and continues to grow like a tree, with new branches and leaves added each day.